And welcome everybody to our Tuesday morning content creation coaching channel chat. I don't know what to call it. Gotta come up with a good name. But Clover joins us from the GunTuber Academy. Clover Tech over in Texas. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, good to be here.
Oops, hold on. What's going on? Where's my thing on? So it worked out pretty good. I hit the live button and then Clover jumped in. So here we go. So I don't know if I missed something last week and we had a topic and I forgot. Otherwise, I was setting it up and I didn't think we had a topic. So I set it to ask us anything. Uh, we've done, I think, this one time in this chat before, but essentially, this is sort of open notes type of thing. We'll just chat about whatever's clever. I know Clover's got some traveling this week, so you probably got other things going on.
Yeah, we leave out early in the morning, headed to Indy. So, uh, yeah, we're going to take an extra day and kind of go a scenic route, I guess you could say. So, um,
There's a scenic route through Arkansas.
well, no, but we're going to go a different way. We're going to go actually over to Birmingham and then up through Tennessee and Kentucky instead of going to Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Indiana.
All right. Well, I'll start out asking you questions, and then people out there will start saying hey to everybody. But as everybody joins us here, and we get the show started, they can
Yeah.
ask whatever questions. We're here to let's see. We started doing this show about Shot Show, and we're both nerds about content creation and coaching people and sharing things. And there's a lot to chat about there. But anyway, we just kept doing the show even after Shot Show. We did a couple of shows after Shot Show, and then we just kept doing it. So we do this show because we'll talk about this stuff. I'm pretty sure I'm talking for Clover, but we'll talk about this stuff any time of the day or night. So this is an opportunity for people to know when we're going to talk about it and to bring questions. We've had some pretty good shows so far, but no pressure. But if you've got questions, go for it. Always, I'm going to start out with Clover and
Yeah.
anything you're wishing you had this trip that you don't have.
Um, yeah, I can't think of anything. Mm.
Anything on this trip that you're looking forward to because you either had it for a short time or you're 100% certain it's going to make the trip better? Is there anything that's the secret weapon this time around?
Man, one of the things it's not. Hmm, it's kind of an open-ended question, right? Like, what do you consider that? So one of the things that is
Well,
going to
it'll
be in it.
change too over the years, right?
Well, this is true, but one of the things that's different this go around than before is the Airbnb is paid for. That's sponsored this go around, and we've never had that before. So um, it's going to be interesting to see. That's the more of a logistical, budgetary issue. You know what I mean? Like, how big of a deal actually is that? You know what I mean? Like, does that take any amount of stress over the cost of these trips? That sort of thing. The obvious answer would be yes to that question, right? The realistic answer could be something totally different. So um, that's kind of an interesting dynamic, I guess, that I'm sort of paying attention to this go around. Um, that being different, of course. No, I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, not really. I mean, the gear that I'm going to be taking, pretty much the same. I mean, the only difference is both of my phones are now the exact same model. I come back from a shot and my old phone, my Galaxy S10, uh, bit the dust, which I was kind of waiting on that anyway. And so I picked up an S20 identical to my current phone. So that's really the only thing is my backup secondary camera, secondary phone is the exact same. I don't think that's gonna, you know what I mean, like that in the grand scheme of things. Is that gonna play out and be like, oh, that's such a relief, or I don't think so. But a camera, a phone is a camera or a phone or whatever, right? So, um, gear wise, I think that's the only thing that's different now. I am going into this because of that the sponsorship with the Airbnb. By the way, craft holsters. I need to throw that out there. It's not going to hurt to say that because people are going to know that eventually anyway. But craft holsters is the one that did that. So thanks to definitely thanks to those guys, and definitely go check them out if you're looking for leather holsters. But um, yeah, the approach. I mean, I've got to. I don't typically go into an event with many, if any, commitments to do videos and booths or at the show, right? And so that's something that you know, if going into SHOT, let's say back in January, right? It's like I had that option, right? And there was definitely companies that wanted me to come in and do a video or whatever, but it was more optional than it is now with the sponsorship deal and what was brokered with that deal. Now I'm committed to do X number of videos, right? So like that's what I was saying. On one hand, it's a bigger picture than just the budgetary, the money side of the economic side of things is, and I didn't explain it well a second ago, but that's where I was talking about. It's going to be interesting to see because, I'm committed to do videos now. It's not something where I have a choice. Like I can do them if it pops up and I think it's a good idea or whatever. Like I've legit got to do X number of videos from the show, right? So,
That's not the first
how do I?
time you've been in that situation. It's maybe the first time with that many number of them, but you've had stuff that you've had to do before. No,
Well, it's true. I mean, there were certain tasks, right? Yeah, 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 without a doubt, without a doubt. Um, so in that respects, it's a little bit different. I mean, there really wasn't even before there wasn't that monetary commitment or whatever behind it, right? Like, when you enter into an agreement with a company and that company cuts you a check, right? And you're sitting on that check for what, weeks now, right? The Airbnb's been paid for, everything else. It's like they've done put out all this money and done all this stuff. So it's like, I've got to come through, right? And so that's a little different than, oh, I promised this company I'd do a video or, something like that. And it's not,
I
there's
hope
not a
to stop by if I can. That's great, but yeah,
yeah, it increases the brevity of it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to put it, right? But like it's a totally different situation than, oh, it's gonna suck if I don't go get this done or whatever. Like this is way more than it will suck if I don't make the videos happen, right? Like I've ripped a company off essentially, which is not gonna happen. Let's be honest. But um, I'll get to work done. But it's having that over your head, I guess, where, hey, got to make sure that, this gets done. Of course, when you've been doing this as long as I have, being able to knock out a few videos on a Sunday at Interam or something like that, it's not going to be a huge deal, right? I don't foresee it being a huge deal. It's just having that hanging over your head. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. I'm trying to think of approach. One thing that'll be interesting, not really anything new. That's the thing. It's like you go to these shows and it seems like every one there's kind of something new, like the navigation or there's something going on that's like, okay, this is new and different, but it's not at the same time, right? And I'll give you an example. We went to SHOT, we had budget the year before that with SHOT, Rogue stayed with us. And it was their first time on both accounts at SHOT Show, both of those years. And so this go around at Interim, we've got New York Prepper, right? And this is his first time at any. Well, he went to Great American Outdoors, but it's his first time at NRA. He's never been to a SHOT, right? So that part, I look forward to that because it's fun. I mean, it's the same as we having the discussion here, right? This mentorship attitude, the debriefs at the end of the day, um, the what it is, the cheerleading, the amping and ramping up attitudes, and just the camaraderie, right, that comes along with that. Um, but it's like New York Prepper. I mean, I don't know New York Prepper that well, so um, hopefully that type of dynamic works well, and he's able to accomplish stuff. So it gets one of the things where it sounds weird, but one of the things I will be paying attention to is, how well is he doing, right? Um, but that's something that the vast majority of creators don't concern themselves with. I know you do, G. How many times do you come around at Shot or at RA like, how's it going? You get any money? Did you do this? Did you do that? Are you doing this? Right? Like you're interested in the what other people are doing, and not in a nosy way, but in the you want to see people succeed, right? And
I
so
want to see
I'm
the
the
world change, yeah. And the
right,
change agents are the individuals. Definitely, like Colt's not going to come along and go, "We need
right,
to get rid of that NFA," right? Like, oh,
right.
Glock don't care about that,
Wouldn't that be
but
awesome?
but individuals do. And yeah, when you
Yeah.
can see somebody go from casual observer to interested collaborator, participant, and then part of the thing. Uh, and again, my attitude on that has changed over the years as the
Mhm.
industry has realized the usefulness and strategy, the
Yeah.
tactic or the resource of individuals. So individuals that are standing around going, "Oh shucks," are
Mhm.
essentially standing around going, "Oh shucks," while people are showering money on the people that go, "Okay, I'll try it out. Let me see what I can do." So anyway, yeah, I like to
Yeah.
make sure that my friends, people
Man,
that are worthwhile, people in the business, aren't just standing around going, "Oh shucks," while the money's
yeah.
raining.
And I'm the same way. Like, we do this live, and of course, um, I don't want to say just I've done, but in the past years with the Thursday night shows and that sort of stuff, a lot of creators, a lot of people involved with that, with the same type mindset. But um, yeah, it's not an uncommon thing. Quick side tangent, not up for discussion, but just something profound that you said. I like. Can you imagine the power of a Glock behind getting rid of the NFA? Like, wow, like some of these big companies, and what could be accomplished with the power of the people in combination with that, right? The boots on the ground and everything. So, and I don't want to get
That's
into that. This is our
Well,
chat, but
it's
it's
totally a
something to think
thing,
about.
though. Think about safe storage. Think about the difference between everybody cares about everybody and what red flag laws really are, and industry, uh, not just industry, but like manufacturer awareness of that. And I mean, things like storage when traveling for competition shooters, that's not necessarily like someone said, "Hey, shooting industry, you better talk about this." It was just people are one talking about it because they are, and anyway, I think that if we look at the things that are less significant or less interesting to us, we have the individual consumer, person in the community, person in the industry, whatever you want to think about it as, whatever you want to think of your roles are. Um, you have massive influence. We don't often do things together because we don't get coordinated very often. But when we do push, things change immediately. Another one I'll use is video at SHOT Show. Trust me, when that started, when there was first the concept, when it was first a thing, it was very resisted. No one understood it. Nobody wanted to be any part of it. It was, unless you really, it was difficult to get that concept. Now, not even a thing. In fact, people will accommodate the individual, the
Right.
amateur, to do video of their stuff. They appreciate that. And that's not something that was, we all said, you know what, we know what's best for the industry and we're going to push this. But man, we essentially did that because it took a number of
Mhm.
3-4 years. Look how long it took to get, I don't know, polymer guns into the industry, and look how long it took us to get streaming
Well,
telephones into the industry.
it's an evolution of technology and all to an extent, right? Because
Sure.
like if you think about it, you think about that in a micro context, right? Covering shows, working with the industry, doing all of that as an amateur, as an individual, content creator, right? Rather than a big media firm or marketing company. Um, it works the same way if you look at the prevalence of citizen journalists, right? Same exact thing. Like, look at all the little pop up news organizations that started, they were one man operations, and some of them still are, right? That have completely taken over, overshadowed in many ways, and certainly given the mainstream media outlets, news outlets, and whatnot a run for their money, right? With reporting and stuff. Um, And it's the same way. I mean, I think technology, high speed internet, especially through cell phones man, 5G was a game changer for sure. And I can remember the first time that I ever dealt with 5G was in Tulsa quite a few years back. I'd got uh, that Galaxy S10, which was 5G capable, and I wasn't even paying any attention to it. We were on a live one night, and you mentioned it, G, on the live. You're like, "Holy crap! The camera on your phone is amazing." And I'm like, "What?" And I went back and looked at it later, and it was just being on that 5G, right? Like I was getting every single pixel and everything else was coming through, right, with that technology. So, having that power of a good microphone, a good camera, all that thing is in your hand. It's easily accessible. It's all right there. Um, Creates a situation, right, that allows people to do things on an individual level. So it doesn't require massive amounts of money and infrastructure and support and employees and all of that. Um, so yeah, it's not, just wanted to stress that. It's not, we see that in a lot of different sectors, not just, the firearm community.
All
What
right.
we got?
Well, we've gone for 15 minutes. We definitely got some questions in.
We
I got a
do.
poll going. NRA annual meeting. The options are you're going and you're creating content. You're not going, but you would be creating content if you were. You're not going and you would not be creating. Or wait, sorry. You are going and you are not creating content. You're just going as an observer. And then the last one is you're not going, and even if you were going, you wouldn't be creating content. So feel free to participate in that, and feel free to leave questions. Normally, we have like a topic we kind of blab about or rant about or whatever, but today I didn't know what was happening, so we just did a Ask Anything. So that means you're the show. So we've been kind of chatting about Clover's trip to NRA this weekend, but actually this next week here because he's leaving tomorrow. G23 asked a really good question.
Yeah,
How would you go about asking gun shows to be media when the gun shows have never allowed media? And that's essentially most gun shows you go to because they really hate media. They've always have. They've been
yep,
taught to hate media because they'll be abused by local media and sometimes national level media. And people who just
right.
whip out a phone and take video of stuff are often could care less about the big picture. So they'll just
Mhm.
take pictures out of context and of weird things, and they'll just do inappropriate stuff, okay, potentially sometimes, but the potential is there, and that's where the promoters are gun shy. Use of pun, but
Yeah,
Clover's had experience with this. I'll let you
I
chat
do.
first.
Yeah, quite a bit. Um, I can think of three gun shows that I've done this exact thing and had to pitch, going in on, or three promoters, I guess you could say, rather than shows. Um, yeah, I mean, the first thing is to realize that, well, the first thing is professionalism. I can't overstate that. If you ham haw around with your conversation and you're all timid and whatever, I mean, it's that elevator speech is being able to get your point across. It's being able to use professional terminology and talk in that context. Now, don't get me wrong. You want to talk down. If you're talking about, I'm living in Texas, so I could think of one promoter that's backwoods cowboy, wonderful dude, right? But if you're not careful, you'll talk over him or talk down to that dude. You would talk down to him really quick, right? Because you can be too professional at some point. But so I would say that's number one, and you also want to go in and make sure that, and they are aware of this, right? It's just pointing it out that there are people in there, regardless of what it says on the door or anything else. There's people in there taking pictures and doing video, like with cell phones in every pocket and every hand and whatever. Like it's happening, right? So at least with me coming in a professional capacity, there's some control and regulation on it. Like I know what to do and what not to do. So if that promoter allows you to come in, it's like, hey, I understand that, I can't be filming anybody if they, expressly forbid it. I mean, other than wide angle shots of the show floor or something like that, I can't be getting close ups of people's faces. And, there's, certain things of that nature. Like if this person doesn't want me filming their booth, I can blur it out. I can cut that part out. I can do whatever. And just making sure that they understand that you're approaching that from a professional manner. And I think before you ever get to that point, it'll be pretty obvious that you're pro gun, you're pro 2A. You're not there to do a hatchet job, a hatchet piece on the gun show. Um, Also important to get across that not only this gives a visual to people that may have never been to that show by that promoter or in that town or whatever it might be. This gives added exposure to increase, because a lot of these promoters, they have a show every weekend, and they may have a show in that particular town 4 weekends a year, or something like that, right? So it's an ongoing thing. It's not a one-off deal. So it's like, hey, if I get some videos out, from this show, does that entice other people to show up, right? And come to the show. So that puts money in the promoter's pocket. That puts money in the exhibitors' pockets, right? And what I've learned from the shows is a lot of the exhibitors, and I mean, you're going to get guys at the old crotchety dudes at the table with their old collection of firearms that they don't even break out a camera around them. They don't want any of that. Get away from me, that sort of thing. You're going to have that. But especially I would say a younger crowd. If you got exhibitors that are younger people, let's say below 60 anyway. Um, but definitely if they're in their 30s or 40s or so, or younger, they're pretty receptive to it because they've been around that. They understand technology, they understand social media, they understand videos, they get that dynamic, right? And so, I would say that the vast majority is received pretty well by those people. So it helps the promoters, it helps the shows, it helps the exhibitors, if it's done, like I said, in that professional manner. So I would say, do your diligence, know and understand the promoter in the show as much as you possibly can, right? How often do they do their shows? How big are their shows? What type of stuff? Maybe even go do recon. Maybe even make a show so you can walk around. And how much beef jerky's there, right? How much jewelry? How many new firearm dealers are there, right? How many quote unquote manufacturers are there? Because that's a big deal. When you go in there and it's just average collector selling their stuff, yeah, if they're willing, you can do a video and talk about some cool guns, no doubt. But is there a diversity of different things you can do at that show, right? And that gets into, is that worth your time, right? To go and to work that show. But um I lost my train of thought. I don't know where I was going with that. But
Well,
um
you're riffing on the idea of, well, G23's question was,
Oh, that way
you
you're
do,
informed when you contact them. That's what I was gonna say. Do your
yeah,
diligence, do
you're
your
talking about
recon,
going. I was
and
going to
then
say,
that
you
way
pretty much, if you're going to a show cold, you better know gun shows because that's a
yeah.
lot of assumption there. You don't know what their show's about.
Well,
Plus, what
when
if
you
you go in there and it's just a weird ass show? You know what I mean? Like you
well,
maybe
and,
don't
and
want to
if
go.
you well, if you call up that promoter, and I definitely call them up. Don't email, social media. I mean, if you email or social media DM to get a number to start a phone conversation where you can actually have a real time conversation, that's one thing. But I would not advise having a back and forth. At least not the first time. I mean, moving forward, you could email them or DM them or whatever and say, "Hey, show's coming up this weekend. Just want to, planning on coming. Make sure everything's good, right?" And they can email back, yeah, right. But at least first time, right? Breaking that ice, I would say you need a real conversation, and maybe you go to a show and have a conversation face to face. But at the very least, it needs to be a live, real time conversation, whether that's over the phone or Skype or whatever. Um, so
I'm gonna say that's a little bit. That's asking a lot because, like you said, they're busy and they're super busy at the show. Now, if you catch them at the right time at the end of the show, the
right.
very end of the show, but that's assuming they're very confident it was a great show. There's no emergencies and everything's calm. So you catch them at the
Well,
end of a busy show with emergencies, and that's the last time to talk to them either. Or also,
I get that it's asking a lot, but it also shows your professionalism and being able to be patient, to be able to dot the I's and cross the T's, and to me, right? Um, so that's all I'm saying with that is, do your homework, and it's just like anything. If you go into that and you're talking to that promoter, and you understand the shows, you know what towns they're in, you know how often they do them, you know what type of stuff's there, you know that says a lot because that promoter or whatever is gonna understand that, whoa, this dude's done his homework, or this lady has done their homework, and they seem to care about the show because look at what all they know about it, right? And like that makes a big deal too. That's a big factor too when it comes to swaying them to go, oh, okay, let's try this out. We'll allow them. They're obviously here to help. You know, they understand the show. They understand what's going on. Um, but yeah, it's not that difficult. The biggest thing, and to boil it down into simple terms, is to just ask. Right? Like we're talking about how you ask, right? Is the key. But you know, in very simple terms, it's like most things. Just you find the right person and ask.
Yeah, well, that's one key. So, okay, so G23 is asking, how would you go about asking gun shows to be media that have never done it before? So, first off, then you know that you've got a show that doesn't do it. So, you're going to need to find a person who has the authority to allow it and is interested in talking to you. So, you got to find out if you can, if there's a number of people that have that authority, or if there's somebody that's got the ear, depending on the show and your experience with it. If it's a show you've been going to your whole life, you probably already know the dynamic of that. If it's something you've never been to before, get used to figuring that out real quick. So, if possible, try to find out the ideal person to talk to. If not, you're going to find that person, and there's no strategy for that. That's just get used to approaching things. So, get past that, or get what's the word, level up on that skill set. So knowing the right person is definitely important. Knowing the right time. I was throwing stuff out there just because on the tour I would go from gun show to gun show, and in my experience, I am not interested in arranging things. For my style, my way of doing it, and also my time on the clock, and what do you call, like, my resources that I can point to, give me a little bit different situation. And part of my answer is going to be, if you're new and the gun show is new, that's a different situation than if you're an experienced, reputable channel and the gun show has been around the block a few times. You're just having different discussions with those different types of people, right? Those different groups of people. So if you, what I would do is go into a gun show and say, hey, I've done this before, and my goal is to share the culture and the community. Your show is awesome, and I'd like to take a look around, like everything Clover just said there. And you're going to tell right away. They're going to either say yes or no, right? They're going to go okay, or they're going to go no way, and deal with it. Like, then move on. There's either another gun show you can go to,
And
or
be prepared for questions, right? You're going to get questions.
probably, maybe. But like Clover said, half the time, and if you find the right person, you ask them at the right time, they could care less. Honestly, that's most of the thing at this point. They're not as scared of the internet like they used to be. They used to be as scared of press because press was slow and against them. It's always been against them, I guess, because of our modern attitudes of media and stuff. But the gun shows have always
And
been
yeah.
like the fall guy, and in the gun community doesn't even like them. We ignore them constantly. We shit on them. If somebody gave us a list of things to
Well,
get rid of in order, you put gun shows at the top of the list. People just don't enjoy them like they
yeah,
used to. So they're not used to having anybody actually help them out.
yeah.
But that's going away, and they are getting a ton of people that bring out phones and don't ask, and just help promote the show. And the shows exist because people are aware of them, and they know that social is part of that. So anyhow, if you show up and just say, hey, I'd like to check it out, and you find out that all you had to do was ask, and now you're in, okay, great. Then let's move on to the next issues, because that's not all there is. But if it is a dead end, then that doesn't mean that it's a locked door. It just means that you asked the wrong person, or at the wrong time, or both, right? You need to get your reputations up. Not you, G23, you're fine. But somebody who's new, let's say, don't if somebody new to you somebody who's new walked up to you and said, hey, let me cut your lawn or something, and you're like, well, let me see some other lawns you've cut. Oh, I've never cut one before. It's the same situation. So get some time on the clock, do some stuff, so that you can confidently show them, hey, I'm pro gun, I'm part of the community, and I'm trying here to share. Maybe hook up with some of the people at the show, right? Like work with some gun shop, or with some,
Oh yeah,
they're
having
a coder or something, and go, hey, I work with that person, and that person. They can vouch for me. If you point to the three people that they don't like and they wish didn't even show up, that's not a good idea. But you know what I mean? Like, you can find the right people at the right time. It's not impossible anymore, but don't assume nothing. And they are more gun shy, again, pun intended, than your typical, even a gun shop, honestly. It can be,
yeah.
they have a lot of stuff going on, and most people are asking them at an inopportune time when they're stressed. Think about all the stuff that can happen at a gun show. And when is that going to happen? Tuesday before the gun show? No, it happens during Saturday of the gun show. So asking them something right on top of it. Of course, I say that, and I can think of like so many competent promoters that are just so experienced that even in them, it's a chaos. They're like, heck yeah, I can take a question that's out of the blue, that's totally random from this person who wants to do something at my show. Sure. Like they're definitely promoters that are down with that, because it's characteristic of running a gun show, I think, is being able to deal with the chaoticness of randomness of what happens at a live event with so many players.
And one event may be to start with a promoter if they're willing to do that and if they have the time. Like, hey, let's just have a little sit down here, 15-minute little conversation and video about, how they got into the promoter and their show and, how it's grown or, whatever the case may be, right? And that, sometimes if you don't have that track record to fall back on, what you can do is you sit down, you conduct that video, that interview or whatever, and you've got the ability to, I don't want to use the word impress them, but you get what I'm saying, right? You've got the ability through that to show them that you do care and that you are going to keep things on a professional level, and you understand the brevity of the situation that they're facing and they're dealing with. Because I mean, we go back to it. Let's make no mistake. The signs up, no video, no photography, whatever. That's for the general public. That doesn't mean there's not exceptions, right? Law enforcement officers are walking around that thing with their loaded guns, right? And nobody else. There's a sign that says, "Oh, you can't have any loaded guns in here." But there's a point, there's a purpose for the law enforcement officers to be there, and they're not zip tied with no ammo, right? And so, as quote unquote professional media, right? Even if it's amateur professional media, you're at a different classification. So don't, I guess what I'm saying is don't see the sign and just assume because there's that sign that it's never going to happen, that you're not going to be able to do it, right? Because that sign is for a different type of person than what you are. But I would agree that that having some connections inside the show, and especially if you are allowed to work that show, forging and building those connections at that point, because there may not be anybody in that show from an exhibitor standpoint or anything like that, but getting feedback and then asking those people, hey, I'm going to do this, and hey, if you enjoyed, the time that we spent here doing a video at your booth or whatever, maybe mention this to the promoter, right? That you enjoyed this or whatever. And I've had, and I know I say we because with Tulsa and all the people going, I know that's been a pretty effective strategy to have those exhibitors say, hey, this was added value. Like, it was kind of cool to, we made this show for the weekend and we did our thing at the show, but, now we got videos out there on the internet, right? That not only promote the show, but promote this person and shows off their collection, or maybe it's a manufacturer of a product or whatever the case may be, right? And it's added value to those people. So if they express that to the promoter, then the promoter can become more open to the idea. They're like, wow, this isn't costing me a thing. They may let you in for free, right? So it may cost you $8, $15, it takes out of their pocket or something like that. But, in the grand scheme of things, with the value it's providing to, the exhibitors at the show, in many cases for them, it's a no brainer. So, yeah, I think we beat that one to death.
Oh, I could do a whole series of shows. I've been trying to do a show with gun show promoters. So, I'm going to just add a couple of more things, just because I dig this topic, and I think we'd all be better off with gun shows that are, evolving and comfortable with online. Get a press credentials. You can get a press credentials at NSSF for $25, and it's a good idea. It's a good idea to be part of NSSF. It helps you be part of the community at a national level in more than just the three-letter organizations that only see things through the filter of legislation or media attention. So, it gives you a solid credential. You can be NRA Media. Right now is their big national convention, but they have another meeting. I don't know, what's the other one called that happens later on. You can get press, probably a little bit tougher to get press for that one, but you can apply for press for these. Here's a little tip. If you go or not, you can still apply for press, right? And now you have an NRA press credential. It's a lot easier to deal with people in the gun community when you have an official gun credential, press credential, versus gun or I don't know, Associated Press or something. Because then again, if they're gun shy to just the press, you're not just the press anymore. Now you're want to bust press. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like for NRA, I mean, you can, but you're gonna have to show up to be able to get that badge, right? Otherwise, there's really no way to track that with your NSSF. You're gonna have a number if you go with something like Poma or something like I keep saying CIOPA, but they changed their name to OJEFA or something now. Um, but one of those like legit outdoor press organizations, right? Yeah, that's going to cost you some money, so that's going to be an investment. Of course, the NSSF, like you said, $25 for that. But with either of those, you're actually going to get an ID card, right? So I mean, you've got some kind of tangible thing you can show that's proof you're not just saying something. Now I don't know. I would think that most people, if you said you were this or that, and especially if you had it on a business card or it was there on your website or something like that, you know, most people probably not going to dispute that and go, "Oh man, is this guy really, you know, a member of these legit press organizations, or are they just making it up?" Right? Um, and I would think for the most part they would be like, okay, if he's got it on his business card or she got it on their business card, got it on their website, yeah, okay, they're probably telling the truth about it. So it may not be required. I'm just saying that I keep um, kind of a tangent, but something I think that can be important. I keep my press passes, um, every single one for every show I make, and it's not really for nostalgia's sake or anything like that. But, when you've got one that's SHOT Show, press, NRA, press, whatever it might be, there are certain situations you get into. Of course, I've got Poma and I've got other things too, but um, there are certain situations you can get into where those older badges, right, can potentially come in handy. Um, wear that around your neck in a badge holder when you approach anybody, right? Just that, and it gives off that type of perception. Maybe you don't even have to say it or talk about it or even say anything about credentials, right? If you walk up and you're talking to that promoter about covering the gun show, while you're talking, they look down and it says NRA Press, where you made NRM or you made Great American Outdoors or whatever it might be, right? Um, they look down and they see that, right? And it's a subtle way to add to the what I started this whole conversation with, the whole idea of professionalism.
Legitimacy.
Yeah.
And it's something that you're able to pursue. And again, I would say getting NRA press, you can go. I mean, obviously, if you can go, you can go. But even if you can't go, knowing that you got there gives you that self-confidence, that awareness that you are press, and that's gonna, you're gonna carry yourself as press, knowing that you're whatever. So I forgot about the Great American Outdoor Show. Yeah, that's a great one too. Um, so now we'll move on. But if people want to talk more about gun shows anytime, it's a good idea. Or I mean, I'll talk about gun shows anytime. Worthwhile Fun mentioned that if she was going to Indiana, she'd be marching with the DC Project ladies, who are taking a walk on Friday at 2 p.m., 3 p.m., and they're going to walk from the NRA convention area, which is the convention center, and walk to the state capitol for Second Amendment awareness, and to flex their First Amendment right to gather muscles. So if you're there and you're interested, the DC Project is gathering at 3 p.m. outside the convention center at the corner of West Maryland Street and South Capitol Avenue. The march will begin shortly thereafter. They're going to walk to the Capitol, which is 2 blocks away. They're going to stay on the sidewalk. They're going to enter the east side of the Capitol. At the Capitol, they're going to hold a press conference in the North Atrium Rotunda at promptly 4 p.m. The topics will include why the ladies support the Second Amendment and meaningful solutions from the firearms industry that make our community safer. I'm going to add with guns instead of safer from guns, which is the message of the other side. I've posted the link to the DC Project's Instagram, where they have a brochure or flyer you can use to share around that has it's like an infographic with the information and a picture of the Capitol there. And yeah, that's awesome. So there's going to be, I mean, the NRA show it's hardly political, even though it's the NRA, because they're scared of being political in front of themselves. They know that a lot of their members don't like that, so they don't. And the members that do like it, they know are just going to be frustrated and deal with it. So there's the actual meetings that happen where the NRA discusses internal stuff. It is an organization, and that's when they do their meetings. That's why it's called the NRA annual meetings and exhibits. But the exhibits is what gets all the attention. So over the years, YouTube has, YouTube started to go to events starting in 2010 after some of us introduced the internet to these events in 2008 and 9. When we started to go, there was only a couple of channels that went to NRA because only fewer channels went to SHOT Show, and that was legitimate, but NRA wasn't, because NRA wasn't in style now. In the early internet, the NRA was definitely not in style. So it was cool to not go to the NRA show back in the day. But then people started to figure out that the NRA show is essentially a little mini SHOT Show, and you can buy stuff there. So people started to flock to it. And as that became a place for a YouTube channel, I'm going to try to be general, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. It was a place for a YouTube channel to allow their viewers to congregate around them, and they were allowed to stand there and be adorned by their YouTube followers or whatever. And they would sell t-shirts out front, and they would get kicked out because they were selling t-shirts that said, leave us alone, or, we don't like what you're doing in here at the place. That's, what I mean? Like, they would make big shows of the event and use the event as a congregation place and ignore the protesters, or if anything, go out and use the protesters to count coup for their channel. So the NRA show's essentially been kind of a big mess as far as politics. It's either ignores politics, it takes credit for everything that the NRA is just standing there that other people do. I mean, that's frustrating too, and a lot of people don't dig that, especially the Second Amendment people. So you'll notice that there's very few Second Amendment people that showed up to NRA ever, until just recently, when people forgot or didn't probably know about the history of it all. But the NRA's thing is that they're always standing there, and whenever something happens, the NRA goes, "Hey, that was because of us. Hey, we helped with that. That was we were a big part of that." And whether or not they were, there's always a perception that the NRA is just taking credit for everything. So there's a lot of 2A people that won't go near the NRA, or at least for decades didn't go near the NRA. So the political stuff at the NRA has just been this like weird attempts to do things, but nothing ever got really done. And it's cool to see an event that's actually happening, and it's something that I don't think too many people are going to go, oh no, I can't go walk down to the Capitol, for a few hours or an hour. It's not like we're asking people to do something where it's a big ask. So I'm hoping that this is what's the word, like a good experiment, I think is the word I'm looking for, and looking forward to see what kind of turnout it gets. When is the show? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or is it just Friday and Saturday? Sometimes these shows have been getting abbreviated.
It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll see. I mean, Friday, it's probably, like in the past, at least in my experience with this one, some people show up for just Friday, but it's usually a kind of a medium day. Saturday's on 100% full power, and then Sunday will be somewhere between Friday and Saturday.
All right.
Or is Sunday less than that?
Do what now?
I'm saying Friday is usually, like, let's say if Friday is half to 2/3, and then Saturday is 100%. Sunday is usually somewhere between Friday and Saturday, like somewhere more than Friday, but not Saturday's level, or is Sunday less than that? Okay.
I would say,
I mean, Sunday starts out low because everybody's at church, but then boom, everybody shows up. It kind of spurts. But anyway, I'm just saying that Friday, it seems like it's kind of not a wasted day, but there's not very, it's great. It's a great ramp up day. So I could see Friday being a great time to do this. But we'll see, because it's also a big ask. Now people have to get there on Friday and then do this additionally, because if they're going on Friday, they're probably either only going Friday or trying to get the most out of the show they can. So it is a big ask. But anyhow, so thanks to Worthwhile Fun for mentioning it and giving me a chance to rant about it. But I only care about 2A. So these shows and stuff are neat, and I really like when people flex their creative muscles or their content creation abilities we need that stuff. And I'm not going to discourage it, but I care about the two-way stuff that happens there. And it's frustrating when people go, $27,000 suit. And in the freaking same city for sure, probably in the same building, there's a room where they could go in there. And, what would it be like if 700 people out of the how many thousands are going to show up tried to cram into that room and say, we're sick of the $700, $27,000 suits or whatever it might be. But nobody wants to do all that. So that's pretty frustrating about the show.
Yeah.
But there's never any kind of consolidated, like, here's the time to show up. Here's the thing to do. It's just like, hey, you're there, do something. It's like, well, what the hell are we supposed to do? So no one does anything to coordinate or be a catalyst for any of that, or fulcrum for any of that. So it's cool to see DC Project stepping up and doing that in a way that, again, isn't to sell T-shirts or any of that. In fact, they're probably going to give T-shirts away to try to turn that State Capitol teal, right?
Right.
All right. Well, thanks again to Worthwhile Fun, who does a ton of work out there, and for bringing that up so we could take a section of the show to talk about it. We're actually doing pretty good. We're only at 45 minutes. We've got another couple of questions or comments here. Ting Ting saying she went to a local gun show, wanted to take video, had a person treat me like a FUD. So, because it depends on what you're going to say FUD is, because people kind of use that in a couple of different ways. But yeah, if you don't, gun shows traditionally are no picture zones. And I'm trying to think of, are there other places that are no picture zones? Because something like a car show, it's usually the opposite. I'm wondering if like a Comic-Con, I'm guessing it's the opposite. They probably encourage, people want you to take pictures of their costumes or their like fancy first edition or something.
Yeah, nah. I mean, anytime, and I think car shows can even be that. Anytime that you have exhibitors, right? Like it's different if one person owns everything in the building and that sort of thing, right? Because you've got one person. The problem that you run into with a gun show is you've got many, many, many exhibitors there. And they may simply, there's going to be, there ain't no maybe to it. There's going to be a certain percentage of those exhibitors that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what you say, they don't want video and pictures taken. And it offends them that you would even bring it up or even consider it, right? So because, like I said, they're not. It's not like, oh, but well, because they're a exhibitor in a show. If the show says I can take pictures, they should allow me to take pictures. No, if they don't want you to video their stuff, that's their stuff. That's their right. And so you need to respect that. So my response to Ting Ting would be that you're going to get that even if you have, first of all, if you don't have approval from the show promoter to be doing that, then you're in the wrong, period. But even if you have approval from the show promoter and they're on board, and the vast majority of exhibitors there, love you being there and they welcome you over to do a video every time you show up, right? You're still going to get those people that are just going to be buttholes about it, right? And so that's going to happen. And what you've got to do is just shrug that off and keep going, because that's their prerogative, that's their merchandise, that's their business. And if they don't want your help with it, right? That's the way you got to look at it. Like, hey, you don't want my help? Okay, fine. I'll move on and find somebody who does. So
Yeah, just go become something that they come to you, and then you can use that as what do you call it, a gauge
yeah,
to
if you
understand that you've reached something when
yeah,
those people start coming to you, or
and
when
I've
you walk
seen
past them with from person to person you are helping, and they
yeah.
go, "Hey, can you take a picture of my stuff too when you're here this next time?"
Uh-huh. Well, I've seen it myself over and over again, where you'll have somebody that's really not receptive, right? And you don't make a big deal of it. You're like, "Oh, okay, I understand. Not a problem. Have a great
If you ever
show."
change your mind, I really want to get a video of this awesome thing. Like,
Maybe
if you ever
swap
change
a
your mind, flag me
card.
down.
Yeah, maybe swap a card, be nice about it, be cordial. Hey, I understand. Have a good show, wish them well, all that kind of stuff. And then move on. And I've had situations where, because a lot of the exhibitors that do these shows, there's regulars, right? And the vast majority, I think, of exhibitors that are at shows are regulars on that circuit, right? We see you hear complaints about it all the time. Oh, it's the same stuff. It's the same stuff. Well, of course it is. It's the same people from the same area. You know what I mean? That set up there every time. So of course it's going to be. There's going to be some new stuff sprinkled in there here and there, but the vast majority of it, there'll be people that's been going to that show for years. So what's going to happen is everybody kind of, not everybody, but a lot of the folks there know each other. So as you go over and you do a video here, well, maybe this show, this guy blew you off. He didn't want anything to do with it. But then you know, 3 rows over, 4 rows over, whatever, you do a video with his buddy. And in the time between that show and the next show, they've had a conversation, and you show up in the next show and you walk by his table and you're like, you know, it's the guy that shrugged you off, and you're nice about it. You go, hey man, how are you? You know, and they remember, and they go, hey, you know, you wanted to do a video last time. You know, you want to take some pictures? You want to do some video this time? Like, you know, because they've had somebody that now they know and they trust that is vouched for you, right? Like, hey, this person, you know, is um, not here to harm you. They're only here to help you, right? They're going to do things in a professional manner. You know, they're relaying their experience to that person, right? Um, and I mean that can go a long way. And I've seen that happen on multiple occasions. I've never seen anybody track somebody down or run somebody down, but I've seen situations where creators had gotten blown off, and then later on it was like, oh yeah, okay, we understand now, we get it, we feel a little more comfortable, let's do this. But also providing alternatives. So you know, I had, you know, you walk in and it's like, well, they don't really want to be on camera, right? But they don't mind talking. Like that's a thing. So, you know, being able to communicate with that exhibitor, and this can apply to NRA, can apply to
I
SHOT, it can
almost
apply to
never
anything.
default to there being on camera. I'll default to looking at the thing, and every once in a while you'll get somebody that goes, "Oh, get me on here," you know, because they want to be on there. They understand that it's
Yeah.
promotion, or they
Yeah.
just like it, or whatever. But yeah, that's definitely a thing. Like, let them
Yeah.
be comfortable with
Just
whatever it is you're doing. Like,
let's,
adapt to their
mhm.
comfort level.
I'll make it comfortable for you. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, well, here's what I want to do. Always tell them what you want to do, right? Um, and then, but hey, I mean, we can do, what are your thoughts? Like, what are you comfortable with? Right. Cause I've had situations where they didn't want to be on camera. I've had situations where they didn't want me mentioning the booth. They didn't want me taking pictures of the booth, that they didn't have a problem like talking on camera, which was weird. Like, you don't want me to show your stuff, but you don't mind talking on the camera. That's kind of weird. Like, okay.
Yeah, but no, I mean, think about it. Like a zillion different things. Like his
Yeah.
wife didn't his brother didn't want him to bring that thing to the show, and he's bringing it to the show anyway. Grandpa said, "Don't bring that to the show." He brought it to the show. Like, I don't want
That's
people
true.
taking
Yeah.
pictures of my table. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm.
and that's just one of a billion. Like, yeah, trust me, there's a zillion things
Oh
where
yeah.
somebody's like, you know, every variable you can think of, or every
Well, it's all
thing.
individuals. Yeah, the exhibitors are all individuals,
So
right?
that's
They're
the.
not.
But
Yeah.
I think the main
Yeah.
thing is take it as and move, because especially the show, there's so
Oh
many
yeah.
targets there. That's like, I'm going
Yeah.
hunting
Don't
and I
waste your
miss a
time.
bird. I'm done hunting. Nope. I'm going home. Nope. Like, you're just gonna keep going and find another
Yep.
bird. Like,
Yep.
keep going. And then what'll happen is that dumbass bird will go fly on a tree, and then you'll get that bird in 15 minutes or in half an
It'll
hour
come
anyway.
back. Yeah, it'll come back by again. Yeah. 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 Exactly.
All right. So otherwise, again, we could maybe gun shows will be a topic. Glover will be back from NRA. We'll probably be talking about other things. But if you
Yeah.
got topics for this show, let us know. We're kind of just doing a
Maybe I'll
random
be back.
topic one today.
Like, maybe I'll be back.
Dang it, I'm muted. You're gonna take like a leisurely adventure back.
No, but there'll be a night stay over coming back. There always is. It's I never push. Like, going, dude, I can drive 30 something hours straight. Like, I'm a beast. But coming back, man, after making the shows, after working, after having fun, after all the things you do, like, no matter how far away it is, you know, obviously Tulsa, leave and come home, right? That's, I don't know, 6, 8 hours, somewhere in that
No, I
range,
don't have
right?
any idea why you do that. I think that's crazy, because Tulsa's kind of cool. You have everybody together. It's always been one of my biggest frustrations is everybody should have. It would have been awesome if everybody would have planned to hang out on Monday also, because there's like literally nothing open except restaurants. We could all farted around and done all kinds of projects and things and
True,
filmed
but you have
videos and
to
fun stuff. Yeah,
Everybody's
I know everybody's got to
individuals,
go
and they
back
have
to
to
work
take
or what,
time
blah blah
off,
blah.
and they have to everybody's schedules. Yeah. So
Yeah, well, again, it would have been cool to have, I don't know, there's 12 gun shops that I visited in Tulsa, right? If each one of them would have thrown
yeah.
$100
Well,
and that's $1,200 pool. Now everybody doesn't have to pay for that hotel because we, you know what I mean? And it would have been a totally
yeah.
different Tulsa if we would have ever found like a reason. I was always hoping to find like
Well,
a dude ranch type of thing where everybody has their little cabin. I think we almost found something once, but it didn't work out. But, everybody would have their cabin. We'd have like the group bunkhouse or whatever where everybody could get together and have some kind of live stream recap at the end of the night. Everybody could bring people in to do interviews if they knew people in town, and really make it more of an event that the gun show created, but then it goes parallel with the gun show instead of, anyway. So then turn that into a summit. But anyhow, there's, I don't know. Now I'm just rambling. So let's get back onto it. Ting Ting said, I have a question. My polymer 80 seems to strike a primer a little low before it strikes. Based on the scratch, is low on the primer. Is there anything I can do to minimize that? Man. I mean, one, this is more like content creation, not gun creation. But as far as taking a kit
God,
and assembling it and having an issue, I mean, I
I've got
can't
near
even imagine where to
zero.
start with the
Yeah,
diagnosis.
I've got near zero experience with Poly 80. So when that comes up, it's like I
Well,
defer to
I'm just
somebody else.
I mean,
Gotta
it could
go.
be the pin, it could be the I don't know if that's that. I doubt that's a drill or a hole you drill, but obviously the dimensionality and the angle and everything of that. But I'm sure that's either molded. It's a pretty
Yeah, I
rigid
would say
dimension. But
the striker is wobbling or tilting for some reason. I mean, is what it sounds like, and I don't know why that would be. I don't know if you've got, some
well,
type of an
there's a
elongated
liner in the
channel.
clock.
Yeah, right.
Well, actually,
Well,
this
that's
is
what
in
I'm
the
saying.
slide.
Is it
This is in the slide. This isn't in the receiver. What are we saying? So
correct? Yeah,
this is parts
yeah,
kit or maybe that channel liner, which is a goofy thing.
yeah. But I don't know.
If
You don't know
someone
where those parts come from. I mean, you don't. I mean, were we talking about a
Yeah, no,
stock
exactly.
Glock
The
slide?
upper,
That would be one
yeah,
thing. But if it's any number of companies that make that stuff now, could be a mixed mismatch part issue as far as tolerances. There, I mean,
size, yeah.
you see that with other things. Like all AR-10s are not created equal. There's two patterns, right? The DPMS and the Armalite. Can you make those two kind of coexist and work? Yeah. Do they work right? No. And so I
They
wonder.
fit, but
And
they don't
again,
work.
yeah. And again, my experience with Poly 80 stuff is limited. But, if you start, oh, well, I'm going to build this. And so you get a bunch of parts and you start trying to put it together, like there may be minor tolerance issues that are playing a factor. So, um, I don't want to say run out and get all your parts from the same manufacturer to help curb that. Um, but if you want to try to eliminate as many issues as possible from the start, that would definitely be one way to try to go. But it sounds like there's wobble in with the striker. You know what I mean? Like the channel is elongated. Maybe the spring's getting into some kind of a bind under load um, where it's not straight, where it's got some kind of a slight kink in it or something along those lines. That's causing that thing to kick up. I mean, there's several things that are possible.
So G23 says there's no channel liner, like maybe it's missing, and I don't know if it would work. I don't. It's been a long time since I've even played with one, let alone played with one without the liner in there.
Oh, there
But
you
the
go.
liner, but
No, I was agreeing with G23. Maybe.
well, I just don't think that there's just enough slop. I think if the liner wasn't there, it ain't gonna hit the hole. It ain't gonna the striker ain't gonna go through no hole. It's just
I
gonna
think
jam
so
into
too.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Because, but anyway, the thing that I
Plus,
know
it's
from that
not going to
thing,
hold. I don't think it would even hold all the guts for the spring to work right, would it?
well, all it's doing is poking the striker right through the middle. It's essentially like a bearing for the striker, right? It's a circular bearing for that
Right.
striker.
Yeah.
But the channel liner is a big pain in the ass because it's like a straw, big thick straw that you jam down this hole that the striker goes down the middle of it, and it's a bearing. It's just a bearing surface for the striker to not have to rub against metal. But you got to jam it in there, and you could be a spaz about jamming it in there just like anything and peen it over. Now you got a goofy peen or weird smash mushroom shape at the end where it's not supposed to have any kind of shape like that if you didn't use the right tool. right? To slide it in there and you forced it in there, or you put it in there at some kind of weird angle and again, mushroom it or peen it all weird and then jam it in there. Now it's got a weird wrinkled kink or something. But I think that's tougher to do because you'd have to really be a spaz and a jerk to like jam that in there. So one, if you got the slide from somebody and they're passing the trash and they did all that, I mean, I don't know what the odds of that are, very low, but it is a potentiality. I think the most likely though is that someone tried to remove it. And how do you remove the liner? Have you ever removed a liner? Clover?
Yeah.
Have you ever removed a liner? How do you remove the liner?
Well, all of that is an assembly. Once you take that back plate off, and it all comes out.
The liner shouldn't slide out though. The liner's usually crammed in there. So normally you take like a screw or a bolt and you screw it in there and you yank it out, and it's destroyed by doing that.
Well, you
So
can
that's
use a pick and grab it on the edge and slide it out.
okay. Maybe if it depends on the gun, I suppose, right? So they shouldn't
Well,
just
this is
slide in and
true.
out.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
shouldn't
I've
slide in
never,
and out.
again,
It's in there.
aside from factory Glock, right? I can't speak to Poly 80, and I can't speak to the amps and the Kigers and the whatever other knockoff, Zeb, whatever the other wannabe Glock models are. I can't speak to any of those. I've
Sure.
never disassembled.
Well, there's got to be
Played around with,
third-party
so.
liners and stuff with different dimensions
Yeah,
of some
that's
sort.
what I'm
just
saying.
'cause
I
they're
don't know the
created differently.
nuances and the difference. I do know we
But
need to get
essentially,
back
that's the thing is we're talking
topic.
about a big, thick straw jammed into a tube, and the thing goes through the center of it. So the part through the center is critical because that's the thing sliding through there. And if you smush it up or get it all weird, the dimensionalities to make the trigonometry wrong or whatever
Right.
geometry wrong. But
Yeah.
the main thing is it's impossible to remove. Like most people don't know how, most people don't. So it either gets cracked or destroyed in there, and then or they ruin it or do something horrible, like you're saying. You use a pick to try to get it out. There's probably some right way to do it, but even in armorer school, they're like, it's a X amount of dollar perishable part. Jam a bolt or a screw in there, which is going to destroy it, but that'll bite into it and then yank it out of there. And now that one is gone. Hopefully, it doesn't crack or break if it's not brittle, right? Then you're using a pick to get it out of there. But anyway, then you're putting in a new one. Essentially, this is the kind of a perishable part that you put a new one in all the time. But Snob is saying he's assuming it's missing. If not, there's probably a tolerance. But see, I just don't know. The thing is pretty thick, so I don't know if you can run it without it.
Well, it's an hour. Let's get back to the content creation stuff.
Yeah, I didn't know if I could flip over. I didn't know if you were here because I didn't know if you were driving already. So I just didn't want to assume and put it on your channel if I was here by myself. Is that something we can switch in? Let me try to switch it in run.
I wouldn't do it
oh no, it won't because it's already on Twitter.
I wouldn't do it anyway. It's just going to catch half of it. So.
Okay, but yeah, that's more of a gun question, but we gave it our shot. We gave it 80% of an answer. So Barbecue is saying local shows, gun shows around here are private vendors, small gun shops that set up at gun shows. That's it. Yep. Right on. That's a pretty awesome gun show. Sounds like.
Yep.
Worthwhile Fun says same with legislators. When you are able to rattle off the bill numbers off the top of your head, they give you a look like, oh, she's legit and committed to this. Right. So we were talking about having some awareness when we were approaching people earlier. And thanks again to the Lazy DC Project that are doing that since 2015. Ting Ting is saying, my grandmother said, not learning something at least once a day is a wasted day. Very wise. I like that. Let's see, G23. If you're in Missouri on April 19th, there's a rally at the Capitol. And I think he goes on to have a conversation with Worthwhile Fun where he's going to have Worthwhile Fun on his chat. Did he say when? But before the event, I'm sure. And then he's going to try to stream the event. I'm going to attempt to do that as well. I want to try to stream the DC Project event also. So if there's anyone who's going to be there who's interested in streaming, I'll send a link to a live chat. And then we'll see if we can get one or more people that are streaming to cover the NRA one. And then we can do the same for the Missouri one. And then Ting Ting says, if I could go to the NRA, I would, but it wouldn't be for the NRA. It would be because I'm an American. That's cool. You don't have to. Definitely, there's no obligation or anything. It's like a
Yep.
potential. It's an
Yep.
opportunity, and it's not like it's a sure like slam dunk. Oh man, all we need is 300 people in that room, and the $27,000 suits are over. No, that ain't mean nothing, right? Like you remove the $27,000 another suit, and you're probably going to get an $11,000 suit lady, right?
Mhm.
Pantsuit lady, or you're going to get I don't know, something else. It's not like you guaranteed we're gonna just immediately right the boat and everything's good to go. And it's not like that
Yeah.
nothing changes anyway. It's just that you can't show
Well,
solidarity and concern without going into the room.
well, what's your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? Right. So, what I hear, I hear this kind of sentiment and have since Indy the last time when everything blew up, especially. But, um, if you're there strictly for like 2A related stuff, if you're there just to walk around, look around, have conversations with people, and you're not there in a creator capacity, I can see where the NRA thing might be a stick in your craw. I get it, but with being media, first of all, you don't have to be an NRA member if you go in under media. So that's number one, right? There's this misconception that if you go, you have to be an NRA member in order to get in. And as an average person, sure, but media, no. And so, it's if you've got that stick in your craw with the NRA, which I'm okay with if you do, just keep that in mind. And media credentialing for the NRA, if you do any type of social media, online content, things of that nature, it's not terribly difficult, right? So I would say that that first. The secondary, a um, uh, if you are a creator and you work with product and you work with the industry, you know, you're going for the trade show. Let's be honest. You're going to talk with the companies and you're going to look at the products and you're going, that's why you're there. The NRA is a name on the side of the building on a banner. The NRA is the tagline with the advertising, and they're just the ones that are, you know, unfortunately facilitating the whole thing, right? And so, it's a matter of compartmentalizing. Do I let the $37,000 suits of Wayne LaPierre screw my relationships with the firearm industry companies? No. Like, screw that guy. Like, hey, it's like I'm not gonna not go to the NRA annual meeting and have those conversations I need to have with those companies because of Wayne LaPierre. He's already on my crap list and low on the totem pole as far as people I give two flips about. So, I'm not going to let what he does or what the NRA does dictate whether or not you know, I'm able to do my thing, I guess. So it's one of them things where there are certain things in this world that you can allow people to control you, or you can be the master of your own destiny, right? Make your own decisions and weigh things out and go. I prefer the latter. Like I'm not gonna let what somebody else does affect me like that. It makes no sense. It's counterproductive, in my opinion. Now, if you've got a hard enough stance on the NRA and you don't do content creation and you check this box and that box and the other box, okay, I get it. I get it. But for a content creator that does GunTuber stuff to go, oh, I'm not going to NRA, screw NRA because it's the NRA, and you're missing all of that opportunity with the industry, well, you're a moron. And I'll stand by that statement.
Well, they're just lazy and ignorant because if they're doing that for all the things you just said, they're just hiding
Well,
behind that statement because of everything
let's
you just said.
true. This is true. I'm glad you brought that up. There are people that don't want to say, I can't afford to go, right? And I don't have the capacity to try to figure out how to go. And so I am going to just kick back and use the excuse that I don't like Wayne LaPierre or the NRA, so I'm not going. And I do feel there's a lot of creators that do that. They don't, you know what I mean? They don't want to come out and say the honest, like, I can't get time off work. I can't afford to go. I don't want to petition companies, or maybe I don't even have the relationship with companies, right? For them to try to help out with travel expenses or other things, you know, and I get it. I get it. They want to save face, and so they use what is a
But you can count coup. It's super easy to count coup on the NRA. Talk about the most easy. You can sit on your lazy boy and use one of them feather sticks for dusting and like count coup on the NRA because everybody's going to go, oh yeah, I hate the NRA too.
right.
What a brave stance. You stood up to the NRA just like Bloomberg and just like Hillary and just like every other anti-gunner. Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
Yeah. That's true. They've got a lot of, there's a lot of popularity. I guess that's what I'm getting at. There's a lot of popularity to that sentiment that makes it a safe play. If there's
yeah,
other reasons you can't go
such
to
a
use
boring
that.
safe play.
Yeah. I mean, who's going to give a crap or even talk to you if you go, man, I can't afford to go, or man, I can't get off work. It's done, right? But if you go, I hate the NRA, I'm not going. Well, here's a whole different conversation you're going to start having, right? With people. Oh, I hate it too. I hate them too. I wouldn't go either. Like that type of thing, right?
Okay, well, getting back to it.
Yeah.
Ozzy says, looking forward to mostly to meeting up with all the YouTube friends like Clover, Ghost, Gizzard, and Roll Call, the Gun Channels folks. And I thought Ozzy had been to places before because pretty sure I don't know if I've met Ozzy, but I'm pretty sure.
He was in Indy last time. What was that,
Yeah, that's
19,
what he ended up
2019?
saying later than that. Yeah. So he's just
Yeah.
saying meeting up again with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Which
cool.
is
Yeah. That's why I say that's where the, this one particularly, but that's where the industry events or the get-togethers for the community are good to, that's another level that they're good on or that they're
but
valuable for.
but I'll say this, meeting up with people is tough if you're there to work the event. Um, I mean, randomly meeting people on the show floor, running into people in the smoking area, like running into people, right? It's pretty easy. That's not difficult. But actually setting up times and trying to get together and meet people during the show anyway can be hectic. It can be problematic. I mean, 2019, I missed the Gun Channels picture because I was on the total opposite end of the venue, and some people were tired of waiting on me, is what I was told. And so, even though I was on my way, you know, I was left out. And but you know what? Doesn't hurt my feelings because I'm there to work the show, and I was busy having conversations with the company. You know what I mean? And so it is what it is.
Yeah.
Um,
I can also say that I see the value in being able to do stuff because being able to go to a thing is one thing. Like, oh, I can run the rapids, or like I can get on the thing and make the whole run. But okay, at some point, making the run is making the run. Now let's make the run in style. Let's jump out of the plane and do some kind of cool stunt on the way down, and that's where we start to master it. And I'm with you, but I want to see it evolve. So, I mean, yeah, for all those reasons, there's lots of reasons why things can't get done, but it is an opportunity and it's a rare opportunity. You only get a couple of them. And I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, it's worth the effort to use these events for more than just, hey, when we say, hey, because there's people that are casual, hey, we're going to say, hey, or whatever. And I'm not going to do meet and greets. That's not my thing, so I can understand that, like a whole sentiment there. But as far as, oh man, like I say, there's things that we're not doing as a group of people, like a group of friends, a group of content creators, a group of Second Amendment advocates, like because we're all these things at the same time. When we go to these events, we're going there, and it's a certain amount of getting people to where they can get there financially and physically and usefully. Like we're all going there, not just standing there. Like imagine the power if everybody was going like a bunch of, I don't know, drones or Borgs or something, like what we could have accomplished with the all the amount of, or the number of Wanamamakers, the amount of NRAMs, the amount of gun rights policy conferences, and then and SHOT Shows and the other things, right? Because there's, once you talk to like the gun channels people, so I'm not saying we all have to be in lockstep. I'm just saying we still have places we can get to, and not everybody's going at the same pace and in the same direction. But you know what? Like scouts and supply and the airborne and the the Navy, everybody's doing their different tasks, but they all have an overall objective, and we're all getting our bearings and we're all getting our skill sets. But I'm going to still challenge us. And one of the ways we challenge ourselves is little tasks, little accomplishments. And that's why the gun channels picture that you're talking about is where everybody gets a gun channels patch and puts their hand out. That comes from Marco. I forget where he brought it or got it from, but that's been one of the coolest traditions because it is a way for everybody to create an instance that we all, get somewhere. And it's always been spur of the moment. And it's not like, on the way there, we all say Saturday. I think we maybe have tried that. I can say
Yeah, we
probably once.
usually get a rough idea. I mean, you have to. You're herding
Yeah.
cats, and that's kind of my point. That
But that's the
someone
thing.
said
And if you don't do
I'm
that
not.
anyway, so that's part of the accomplishment is being
Yeah,
able to do it. I think
yeah.
that's all.
Like I'm not butthurt or anything because I didn't get into that picture. It's just because I understand the situation. I mean, when you've got I mean, there's been times with that picture we've had what 15, 20, 30, 30 people in the gun channels picture. So, you know, when you've got that many people and you're trying to coordinate at what point do we whip out the patches and take a picture? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
inevitably, the more people that you have at an event, the more people that you're going to percentage wise, they're going to get left out because you just can't herd that many cats at one time.
I hear you, but it's still a challenge, and I think it's still
Yeah,
worthy challenge to accomplish or attempt, I guess.
right.
Okay, so we're going on to the next one. Then barbecue is saying, "Oh, is this a content creation chat? I thought it was a chat about the gun shows." It's just ask us anything. So we've been reacting,
Smart aleck.
yeah, going off on tangents. But I will have gun channels chat or
It
gun
wasn't. It
show
is.
chat. Don't
It
challenge.
has been a creator chat because it's been that perspective on shows. So
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty much started revolving around being a content creator at the shows in different ways,
right.
except for Snob, who's eating chopped liver over here.
Uh,
All right. So I think with that, we're going to wrap this one up at actually before 90 minutes. I think I said hey to everybody, at least by flipping them up on the screen here that showed up today. Thanks for joining us live.
mhm.
Oh, I missed this one. Milsurp saying I would be at the NRA show this weekend, but everything from my old house to Kansas, plus view, plus going to view a house. Oh, okay. Oh,
Moving.
he's moving
Yeah.
without a house. I didn't realize that he's moving without a destination. So yeah, good luck with that. Hopefully everything goes smoothly. Kansas, be careful of the tornadoes. Um,
Not the tactical Kansas either. The regular Kansas.
Guns of Barbecue. Lacey he went from a state that had no panhandles, like a respectable state, and then he's going to another state that's almost a perfect rectangle, a very respectable state, Kansas. Uh, Barbecue says, "What's each of yours worst experience at a gun show? Follow up with your best experience."
I think that's a good one. I don't know that I've.
My worst experience is probably needing to sell stuff and then bringing stuff and then not selling anything. That's frustrating, and those are probably
Yeah.
unless I can't think of something like I spilled something or something like that. Um, I could probably, because I've gone to a lot of gun shows, believe it or not, there's probably times I've drove to Phoenix and had like tons of money in my pocket and then wasn't able to buy something for some reason, like nothing, because I'm super cheap. So even if I got a
Yeah.
ton of money and something's not a great deal, I'll leave it sit there just out of spite, right? Because I know that one day I'll find it kind of thing. And I'd rather find it one day for the price I want than cheat and just buy it for more than it's worth.
Yeah.
So something like that might rub me raw, but I still dig it because now I know who's got one. And if I really want one, I know where I can go grab it. And, I just know that, when I do get it, it's worth that. So I'm not really too disappointed when something like that happens. It's more of just a temporary thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What do you consider like a worst experience? Like, what are you even, what's your gauge for that?
I'm sitting here trying to think, and it's like everybody is different, right? And for me, when you talk about a gun show, there's so much hate that goes on out there about gun shows, right? Oh, all the beef jerky, all the jewelry, all the prices are high, all the bear, right? And it makes me wonder if the people that say that are not going into that gun show with a weird perspective, or maybe they already have a bad attitude, right? So for me, and I've talked about this before, I always go in. I mean, I know that overpriced things are going to exist. I know that it's very likely there's going to be jewelry and beef jerky and things there. I already know this. So, no reason for me to be upset. I'm going in going, okay, what what is going to be here that I've never seen before, right? Where are the deals, right? If the vast majority of this stuff is likely overpriced, not all of it is going to be. I've been to many shows and I've found some pretty good deals at shows, right? So it becomes you take what could be a negative and you turn that into a positive, at least from my perspective. You turn that into a positive by making it an objective, a treasure hunt. Like, I'm gonna find a deal here. Like, where's the deal? Um, so I don't know, just because of the way that I perceive all of that. I don't know that I've necessarily got. I can't think of a one I would call a bad experience. Um, on the good experience, best experience, I'll tell you, and I'll always remember this one gun show. There was one gun show that was held here locally once upon a time. And don't get me wrong, Wanamaker, largest gun show in the world, is fucking amazing. But the um, the local gun show here, there was probably, man, there 50 or 60 tables. I mean, it wasn't big at all. I mean, it was a little gun show. It was amazing. Just because of the type of stuff that's there. Now, it was amazing because there wasn't a lick of beef jerky or jewelry there. But it was mostly like private collection stuff. I don't even recall. It's been several years ago, quite a few years ago. I don't even recall um any like dealers being there. You know how you have dealers like, pawn shop or gun shop, and they have all the new guns laid out with the cables through them and the whole 9 yards. I don't remember any of that. Like, there wasn't a ton of tables, but every one of them was, private collection, real people. And so, the conversations you were able to have there, just the stuff that you were able to see. And don't get me wrong, I spent some money at that show. And you would think, oh, a small gun show with 40 or 50 tables, maybe, probably more like 20 or 30 tables. He was like, what could you possibly pick up or buy there or whatever? And I did spend some money there. So, I'll always remember that. Like, we talk about the largest gun show in the world. Sometimes the smallest ones, right, can be the most fun and the most enjoyable experience. And that one definitely was. And I don't think they've had it again. I don't know if that was a random promoter that just popped up and did that one or what, but I know in that location, um, they haven't had and it was a great location. It was an old National Guard Armory building, but um, I don't think they've had a gun show since, right? So I mean, maybe they didn't get enough people through the door to make it worth their while and pay for the rent on the building. Like, I don't know. I can't speak to that, but um, yeah, I pined for that a little bit. Like, I wish there would be another one of those because that was
We had
fun.
them at the VFW right here, had one very
Yeah,
intermittently. I'm trying to remember who the promoter was, but it was almost, well,
yeah.
nobody, no shop wanted to show up, and it was all just regular people. But
Mhm.
one step above only people from the VFW. You know what I mean? It was like just
Yeah.
a few people.
Well, yeah.
And it was
There's
sort of lame, but at the same time, it was like the best of. It was all, yeah. It was very cool to just hang out. You weren't going to get
yeah.
nothing there, but it was cool to hang out and learn about stuff.
Well, there's another one I can think of that it's a very big gun shop. It's probably an hour and a half from here, and they sponsor it, help ramrod it. I don't want to say they're the promoter because I don't know that for sure. But it's at the VFW there in the town where they're at, and they do it. It's still going on. They do it 2 or 3 times a year now. It's 2 or 3 times the size of the little show I'm talking about. Still not a huge show by any stretch of the imagination. But it still has a fairly small feeling, and there's not a lot of dealers. Some of the similarities of the smaller show, right? And those can be fun too. Now, that's 3 times as far away as the show I was talking about, so considerably more drive time and other things. But yeah, the big shows like Tulsa. The beautiful thing about Tulsa, and this is one of it boggles my mind, the people that make the Tulsa show and then complain about prices. And it's like, why are you focused on that kind of stuff? Like, why not? You're at the largest gun show in the world. I can remember a Tulsa original Colt Walkers. There's only like 30 known to exist in the entire world. And I can remember, what was it, 12, 15, 18? I don't even remember. But out of the 30 that exist in the entire world, around half or maybe a little more of them were at that show. And it's like just little things like that. If you're not into old revolvers or you're not into Wild West, if you're not, I get it. You wouldn't know that, right? And so you wouldn't be impressed, or that wouldn't be a cool thing to you. And I understand. But my point is, there are things besides prices and what can I buy and all of this other the things. There's more of a point to going to a gun show for me, right? Than, oh, I'm going to go to the gun show and I hope I find a bunch of deals and come home with a bunch of stuff. Well, that's one aspect. Okay, it's respectable. I don't have a problem.
Well, that
Um,
helps you pay for the show too. If you're paying for
true.
travel, if you're paying
Yeah.
for just entrance
Yeah.
fees, that helps you dollar cost into it.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also getting to see things a lot of times and realizing, like when I did that time at Tulsa, I'm like, holy crap! Like what are the odds that half of every one of these that exist are I'm actually able to look at them right now? Like that's crazy. I don't have to travel to museums and other things, right? Like they're right here. I can see them on a table. It's
Well,
amazing.
and as you go each year, you notice that your perception will be like, oh, there's more of them than last year. There's less than last
Oh
year,
yeah. Yep.
right? So then that gives you
Yep.
that finger on the pulse
Mhm.
that's hard to describe, and
Yeah.
that's one of a million different things. Like
And
just the number of booths that have like handcuff stuff or Civil War stuff or
mhm.
police car stuff, or just the different things you might be paying attention to. That helps you figure out where the industry's at, where the
Right.
is this stuff coming out of people's
Or the
closets, or is this stuff, is
well,
everybody selling, or is everybody buying?
or take. I know this is one in Tulsa, and it doesn't just apply to Tulsa, but any show that I go to is a similar way. Like I know in Tulsa, I know downstairs, the military surplus guy is one that you always frequent that and usually pick up stuff there, right? And a lot of people do. Um, I've never bought anything from down there, but I always go down there and walk through that and take a look because they just got so much stuff that it's interesting to look at.
You're crazy not to buy stuff because almost everything there is
I'm
half
sure it
price or
is, but
less.
then like, do I need it? Do I have a need for
You
it? Do I
don't
have a
know what
use
you need
for it?
until you
Like,
have a bunch of this stuff. What kind of
it's
life do you
it's
live when
probably
you only
true.
have what you need all the time? That's weird.
That's probably true.
That's
But
why Star Trek is so boring, because they only
well, I'm
have
just
what they
saying
need.
it's still fun to look at. You know what I mean? Regardless, like all the variety, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that exists, or I didn't know they made something like this. And there's a lot of cool things like that that can be found. And how many people just walk by those types of things and they go, oh, it's just a bunch of old milsurp junk, and they walk by, and it's like, yeah, walk through that every now and then and take a look. You might find something that's really cool that you didn't know exists or whatever. And that's great, not just for you knowing and the excitement of, oh wow, that's new and that's cool and I've never seen that before. But what happens when you're there with a group of people that right? And like G-Webs is there, for example, and then he mentions something, and I can go, hey, the guy downstairs, that table, or that over there in that corner, go check that person out or that guy out, right? And it's not anything necessarily I was interested in purchasing. I just thought it was cool. But because I was paying attention and actually looking at things, now I can send G-Webs over there to pick up whatever it is because he's ready to buy. He's ready to spend money on that stuff. So I can send you over there and keep you for that saves you search time. And now you can spend that search time looking at other cool stuff or whatever. So there's benefits to it.
Yeah, so if I had to answer the best experience, I've been going to shows my whole life, so I've got a zillion good experiences. And then I was on the road for many years, through a crowd-funded adventure of going to gun shows. We call this thing, well, I guess my shows is the daily gun show, called the tour, the gun show loophole tour. So, I'm all about gun shows. So it would be difficult to come up with the best experience, but at the top of that list is going to be the Wanamaker experiences, where at the time when Gun Channels was going. And even though, my goal with Gun Channels was different because we didn't really have a goal when we started, and it kind of adapted with what we had at Gun Channels. My ultimate goal would have been to have sort of a content creator centric community, and that's what Wanamaker was essentially. There was some people that just went to hang out, but pretty much everybody that was spending that kind of scratch to get there was hoping to either recuperate their investment or invest in their channel or their projects. And people had different levels of success with that, and different levels of ambition and drive, and getting a bunch of people that were working together collaboratively. And then, even though I wasn't able to participate at every one because it's costly to drive that 1,600 miles or whatever every time. Knowing that kept going, that was pretty freaking awesome. So I'd say it was probably one of those years where we had a table and a bunch of us were there, and just got a lot accomplished individually, and then kind of cementing the traditions or the whatever you call that, like I guess tradition, right? The like what we were doing, and also doing that with the promoter. I mean, we weren't just doing that and then being at the show. We were doing that in collaboration. And that was Clover's doing, and I guess continual effort to keep that thing going. But I think that was all worth it, and that was
Part of
probably
me.
my after the whole lifetime of going to gun shows. I'm not going to say that's the pinnacle because I'm certainly not done, and gun shows aren't done. In fact, I've got a couple of things actually that are out happening right now that might be gun show related, but to this point, I'd say that was some of the more awesome experience at a gun show is just the being part of a group that had so much roots and interaction with the show for so long in such giant show, and then again having the like gun channels layer to it, and that was probably my favorite stuff.
Yeah, it breaks my heart a little bit I didn't make it this last time, but it's it's bound to happen eventually.
Yeah. So I think we hit all the questions, and if we didn't, we got them for next time. So we're right about 90 minutes. What do you got coming up? You pretty much taking the time off because you're driving around, going on vacation?
Yeah, we'll leave out tomorrow morning, headed that way. So gonna take the route to Birmingham and then up through Tennessee and Kentucky and up. Gonna go that way going. Coming back, I don't even know which way we're gonna go, but my wife needs to check off some states. So going that way will get her some states she's never been through. So we're gonna go that way, and that's kind of what we were talking about a little bit earlier when you were talking about taking your time coming back and all that. So for going and coming back, that's my wife and I like to road trip anyway. So that's that's more a thing for us than it is, hey, I'm going to do this for content creation or whatever. So something
Birmingham
we
is
enjoy.
Carcal, and they import the Styrogs and all these fancy African hunting rifles.
What is?
Carcal. So they import the Styrogs, and the Carcal pistol was like a weird, you had that triangle sights on top.
What about them?
They're in Birmingham.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of companies in
We stopped
Alabama.
by there one morning and on the way on our trip in 12.
Yeah, I thought about trying to make that primary arms range day, but that's going to be tough and potentially put a damper on the, I don't know. I've never been to that one, so I don't know what to expect.
Oh, is that at the NRA thing, like in Nashville?
Yes, the day before.
Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's on Thursday, and it's only from like noon to 4 or something. So
is it an indoor range or outdoor?
I think it's an outdoor range. Yeah, pretty sure. Somewhere I think south, maybe a little bit south of Indianapolis, on a range. So I thought about making that. I mean, it's possible, but it's kind of gonna be pushing it, and I don't really want to do that. All those companies obviously are going to be at NRA. Like at the end of the day, how much trigger time do you need? We'd just come off a SHOT Show in the range day there. I've looked at it's not a massive amount of companies that are going to be at that range day, and any of the ones that I work with or am interested in, I've already experienced the products and other things. Either I have them in hand already here, or I did at range day at SHOT Show. So
let's just say that somebody's a content creator and they've gone to a bunch of different outdoor events. Does that make them more or less valuable to the people they work with when they've experienced and seen these outdoor events? All you got to do is show up to experience the event and be able to put it in the Rolodex, in a level. Okay, it's bigger than that one. Smaller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, it's a great opportunity, especially for those that haven't made SHOT Show, that haven't made other range style events. Excellent opportunity. I'm not knocking it at all. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just
Well, I
saying,
know.
as
I'm
far as it,
just saying that I'm trying to get you to go, because even if you don't go there and experience it and spend 8 hours there,
I
you
get
can go there and say, okay, now I've been here.
I get that, but do I go for 4 hours? That
No,
could be.
go for an hour, go for 15 minutes. Just as long as you've been there, now you can literally go,
That's true.
okay, I know where it is and I've been there. You don't have, you have to go
No,
talk to everybody to see
that's
what their
true.
booth is like.
That's
No,
true.
but you can see what the event's like, and you
Yeah.
know how far it is. You know how much effort people put in to go there. That's all I'm saying is literally being there.
Mhm.
If it's not like a massive strain on the schedule, especially if you know you're just going to tag it, include it in your list, because now you can say I've been there. Again, if you went there for 2 hours or you went there for 7 hours, would you make a differentiation? If
Yeah.
you've been there. So that's all I'm saying. Once you've been to a bunch of events, add it to your inventory, because you don't need to experience the whole thing to understand it. And you'll understand a lot better having been there than just knowing that it existed.
Right.
But anyway, again, I have no idea. But since you said it there, I was like, oh, well, that seems like a no brainer. Like, at least tag it, at least be there. On the other hand, you're driving with your wife and trying to live life, so have a good road trip and experience there. But then I'll
Yeah.
say, I
Right.
hope you're doing some kind of restaurant reviews at this point,
Right.
car reviews.
He,
Even if you did
he's
uh, gas station reviews, you'd probably make some
right.
be worth your while.
Yeah. G's always trying to give people extra work. He's good at that.
Well, since you're doing it anyway, might as well, driving all the way up there. All right, with that though, we'll say hey to Chris, Weston, and we said it's like a museum where you can handle and buy some of the stuff for sure. Like a museum where the person knows about this stuff. I mean, it's possible that you'll walk up to the table when that person's at the bathroom or eating lunch or something, or that somebody's selling something that their dad left them in the estate sale or an estate thing or something, but so they don't know about it. But most of the time, it's a person at the table knows way more about the stuff they're talking about or stuff at their table than a museum person's going to, know a little slice about everything in their museum. They'll probably be super interested in a few things, but yeah, the ratio of interest and knowledge to the stuff in front of them pretty high at a gun show. All right, well, with that, we're wrapping this one up, and let's see, we're going to recommend you head over to Cape Gunworks, who does the 2A Tuesday segment of the Grace Curley Show every Tuesday. So Grace Curley is a radio show in Boston and kind of a big popular radio show up there. They had Toby on from Cape Gunworks to do a gun segment, I think literally just to do a gun segment one time. And it was so popular that they've been doing it for years, every Tuesday. So Grace Curley takes 45 minutes of her show every Tuesday and invites Toby on, and they bring callers on who listen to the show. And those of us who watch on YouTube have a good time, because in the breaks and before the show, a little bit after the show, Toby will usually interact with people on YouTube, answering questions or whatever. And then we sort of all guess on how many calls are going to come in that day. Some days it's pretty easy to figure it out, if there's big breaking news or something. Other days it's more of a crapshoot, a lot of fun. So we definitely encourage it. Rapid Fire is the name of the show. It's also Rapid Fire Radio Network. They're the host of a new network that's in the midst of coming to life, that's focused on what the kind of stuff we're talking about, getting the word out, focused on the community. What am I trying to say? Like, what am I trying to say? That it's a network that's focused on guns and the community and content creators that are growing, I guess. So it's not a typical network, and hopefully you'll see a lot come out of that.
Yep.
Right on. So with that, I'm gonna throw a commercial up for our. Oh man, I didn't have my banner going at the bottom here. I want to thank our Patreons, the people that subscribe to our projects. Clover's got a Patreon. We've got a Patreon. A bunch of other people that we've chatted with in the comments today have Patreons. It's a way for you to subscribe to things that you find value in, and it is what makes it possible for us to put these shows out. on a regular basis. But more importantly, it lets us keep our websites up there, which are doing our heavy lifting. They're the resources that are out there for people that are looking for them. But in my opinion, I don't know, maybe we can have a discussion about this sometime. I put the websites out there really for the engines, for the search engines, and now the AIs that are using the different resources online to decide answers to questions, right? So socials and stuff are taken with a grain of salt because they know that's just a bunch of banter. But stuff that's written on websites is typically, indexed and archived as resource. So we really appreciate the people that subscribe to what we do because it pays for those servers, it pays for the software that's out there, and the time that it takes to keep those things useful and act in running. So thanks again to those patrons. We do not take that lightly. It pays for a lot of those costs and like background stuff. All right, so we're going to put a thing up for our store. I want to thank Foss. Too early for him to show up in these live chats, but he's the creative genius behind most of our commercials here. And encourage you to check out your website store.